Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. On today's video, I wanted to react to the latest developments that have been taking place under the Trump administration. If you have not been paying attention, our Attorney General, Ms. Pam Bondi, y'all, Pam is gangster. I love Pam Bondi. She is that girl. We're going to be reacting to some latest developments. The Attorney General of the United States has had to put a lot of these states on notice for whatever reason. Actually, it's not for whatever reason. We actually know why they're doing it, but many of these states that are Democrat-led and Democrat-ruled have refused to cooperate with the will of the people. Now, y'all know the Democrat Party, they don't really believe in democracy. They actually function more like, I don't know, what is it called? They function like a dictatorship. They don't really function like a democracy. They use the word democracy and democratic, but they actually function like authoritarians. They are totalitarian in their rule. Now, we all know that the Democrats love the word Democrat and democracy, and it's kind of like all in their name, but their policies and the way they rule and govern reflect anything but that. They are authoritarian in how they rule. They are a dictatorship. It does not matter that the American people have overwhelmingly spoken and said, we want a secure border and you need to send these illegal immigrants back to their country of origin. There's too much drugs going on. There's too much crime. We can't afford it. It is just not the American way to have an unregulated, just wide open door policy of immigration. And so Pam Bondi is going to have a press briefing. I call it a mega moment, but she's holding a press briefing where she is going to put these Democrat states on notice. And particularly the one we're going to take a look at is New York. She is sending a very strong message to the governor of New York and their attorney general, Big Tish. Big Tish is what they call her. She's sending a very poignant message to the leadership of the state of New York to let them know that you can play stupid games if you want to, but you will reap stupid prizes. So y'all, let's go ahead and take a look at what Pam Bondi has to say.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry we were a little bit late. I was in the West Wing swearing in Tulsi Gabbard, and so I just came straight back here. So thanks for being patient with us with the delay. We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens.
Really quickly, I just wanted to engage with something Pam said. So just to recap, she's filing charges against the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, Attorney General Letitia James, and then the Schroeder dude who's over the DMV. But I noticed what Pam said, and this should alarm every American. I don't see how anyone cannot pay attention and observe that these Democrats that are in charge are absolutely prioritizing over American citizens these illegal immigrants. And I understand some people are uncomfortable with this conversation surrounding immigration because they're just like, well, these people are seeking asylum and they need our help and they just want a better life. And I get it. I understand how it attempts to pull on your heartstrings. However, it is incumbent upon a nation to be a nation of law and order, and it is also wise and prudent to be a nation of borders. You don't operate your home in a borderless fashion. You have doors. You lock your door. You may have an alarm system. You may have a Ring doorbell camera. When someone knocks on the door, you just open up the door and just say, y'all gonna come on in? Or do you kind of stick your head out and get an idea of, well, who is it? Well, who sent for you? Because I wasn't expecting you. What's your name? What business is it of yours for you to be on my doorstep right now? I wasn't expecting you. I didn't call you. I didn't send for you. And yet you were here. You don't just open the door and let them in. You try to ascertain, what is your business here? Why are you here? What do you want? And then even once you find it out, aren't you still a little cautious? Aren't you still, especially if they're trying to sell you something, you're still trying to be a little cautious. And so what Pam Bondi is saying here is that the attorney general, the governor, and another state official has prioritized other people who are not U.S. citizens over above the safety and the security of American citizens. And then she's going to allow these angel moms, she's going to allow them to tell their story. But let's take a look. Listen to what she says. This is heartbreaking.
With me today, I'm so proud to be joined by Tammy Nobles. Tammy is an angel mom. Her beautiful daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was murdered by an MS-13 member in 2022. Kayla had just turned 20 years old, and she was raped and murdered by someone who should not have been in our country. Yet, he was released, flown to Maryland, where he committed this violent murder. I just want you to hear from Tammy. Tammy represents not only herself and her family, but all of the great angel moms around this country who have suffered because of what the Biden administration did, and it is over.
Thank you for having me here today and being able to share Kayla's story. Her murderer was able to come across the border knowing that he was flagged as an MS-13 gang member, and he had a criminal record in 2020 in El Salvador for illicit gang activity. He came over as an unoccupied alien child, saying that he was afraid of gang activity in his country. Health and Human Services called him a nice boy, and he showed age-appropriate behavior. That fell so wrong when he murdered my daughter. He ended up in Maryland, where he was able to rent a room in the same mobile home as her. We thought it was a legit company that were renting out these rooms, but it turned out that it was another illegal immigrant who owned these mobile homes, and he knew Walter from El Salvador. He knew him and allowed him to rent a room with my child. Kayla just turned 20 years old 3 days before she was murdered. Her murderer was only living there for 5 days before he viciously strangled her, raped her, and left her on the floor like trash and robbed her of $6.
Listen, this is no laughing matter. The fact that we actually have to have this kind of discussion is beyond me. The idea that people who are citizens of this country would govern in such a treasonous and reckless and evil fashion is beyond me. You cannot say that you love this nation and its inhabitants when you are willing to put the safety of your own people at risk, so that for whatever reason you can either exploit these illegal immigrants, get votes out of them, which is also exploitative. Like, what is the end goal? That's what I want to know. What is the end goal of an open border policy other than the fact that you hate this country and you are a globalist and there's some other agenda that's driving your passion to let illegal immigrants over here who may or may not have criminal backgrounds or who may or may not have already committed crimes. Like, I understand, oh, this nation is a nation of immigrants. I agree. My grandparents came over here as immigrants, but they were vetted. Like, people knew who they were and they came over here the right way. The idea that they don't want any sort of policy that vets these people. They don't even want our own law enforcement to be able to verify and check and run a check on who the people who are the people that they are engaging or having encounters with at a traffic stop or at, in a situation where you're dealing with someone that's a person of interest. Like, that is crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy to me. And so I'm glad that Pam Bondi, under the direction and leadership of President Trump, is actually saying, okay, y'all gonna mess around and find out. Obstruct justice if you want to, but we're going to hold you accountable, and it stops today. Too many Americans have lost their lives. Too many Americans have succumbed to fentanyl overdoses and deaths because of the drug trafficking that's happening. Too many young girls here in Atlanta alone have been sex trafficked. I honestly believe that these Democrats are profiting in some form or fashion from the trafficking that happens in and through a lot of these major cities, and they're the mules and the cartels are somehow paying these politicians. I can't prove it. This is an alleged theory of mine, but there's no other explanation why a governor and a state attorney general would be fighting this hard to protect the criminal elements of this immigration conversation. It doesn't make any sense. And to hear this mother tell her story of, my daughter's renting a room in a mobile home park, and the gentleman who owns the mobile home knew that this guy was illegal and had a criminal past and rented to him anyway. And my question is, what motive does this illegal immigrant have to sexually assault and rape and murder another person sharing a room in the same home with them? Like, why are we doing this? This is not okay. This is not okay. This is a national security risk. This is a threat. And it's our own U.S. citizens, elected officials that are absolutely, in my opinion, participating in treason and sedition against its own citizens by not wanting to do something about the criminal element and sending these people back. But they are actually protecting the people who are out to harm us. They are protecting the lawless. And they do it with vigor. They vigorously defend the lawless. They send and use our money and give it to the lawless, and then refuses to cooperate with the federal government that's like, listen, the American people they just want us to keep them safe, and we can't do that if you will not cooperate. So I'm actually kind of glad that Pam Bondi is coming out with the big guns. I am glad. The thing that these Democrats don't realize is that the American people have spoken. We do not want this. Immigration was one of the top 3 issues that got Trump elected. Overwhelmingly, even if they didn't want to say it publicly, people are like, nah, we got to do something with these borders, these illegal immigrants. Like, we love them, but we full, they got to go. And the Black community in particular had a lot to say about this in Chicago, because they saw with their own 2 eyes, oh, these Democrats gonna play in our face? They're taking our tax dollars and rolling out the red carpet for these people, giving them our resources. How disrespectful can you be? But I told you, when people show you who they are, you have got to believe them. And this idea that, well, both sides are jacked up. I agree. There are evil people and really trifling people on both sides, but there is only one side of this aisle that is actively trying to prevent law and order from being implemented and actively trying to keep this border open. And it's because somehow it benefits them. It benefits them. And I don't like it. And I am glad that someone, because we had a weak administration before this, they weren't willing to do anything about this. And in fact, they actually caused this. Lives have been lost because of their negligence and their greed and their evil and their wickedness. I want you guys to listen to this question that the reporter asked Pam Bondi and listen to Pam's response.
I also have an on-topic and an off-topic.
Sure.
First of all, can you just briefly walk us through what the legal claims are you're making in this lawsuit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the green light laws are that this is what the green light law says. It's a green light to illegal immigration, which says they can comply. That law is unconstitutional. They can't do that. And what they've done is they have a tip-off provision that requires New York's DMV commissioner to promptly inform any illegal alien when a federal immigration agency has requested their information. So think about the men and women in law enforcement behind me. That's basically, that's not basic, it's tipping off an illegal alien, and it's unconstitutional. And that's why we filed this lawsuit, and that's why we charged Mark Schroeder too, because he runs DMV.
Do you guys believe that? Essentially, this green light law asserts that if there's an illegal immigrant that has a driver's license, and I'm like, how the heck does that even happen? Right? Like, how does an illegal immigrant have a driver's license? But that's a conversation for another day. But if a federal agent or ICE or some other federal agency is seeking information regarding this immigrant, the DMV is supposed to alert the actual illegal that, hey, they on to you. You better run to the next town. I'm like, what the heck is this? This is wild to me. How, if you are a Democrat, can you remember any time in U.S. history that other Americans went out of their way to protect a people group who ain't even supposed to be here? And so that's the first, they're lawbreakers because they didn't come in here the right way, right? So that's the first thing. But look at the hoops that the state and local municipalities are willing to jump through to protect these people, to keep them from being properly detained and deported. How is this not treason? Like, how is this not like a form of sedition? And maybe I'm not using the right word. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is insane to me that the DMV is involved with harboring like fugitives, essentially. So now Pam Bondi is suing the governor and the attorney general, and this is why Schroeder's involved, because he's the commissioner of the DMV. Like, where did this law come from? How did they think that this was even constitutional and this would be allowed to fly? If you are a Democrat and you live in New York and you still a Democrat, is anybody at home? Hello? Is anyone at home? This is the most un-American thing I have seen happen in my lifetime. These Democrats are willing to protect, I'm going to call it an industry. They want to protect the industry of illegal immigration so much that they would be willing to defy the Constitution and place laws on the books that harbor fugitives and tip off the fugitive so that federal agencies and law enforcement can't do their job, which is to protect the American people. That is crazy to me. This is a great time to be alive, but this is wild. And so I wanted to cover this, one, to keep you guys informed on what's going on, and just to help God's people understand the category distinction between the sojourner and the illegal immigrants whose first order of business into this country was breaking the law. We don't mind the stranger or the sojourner coming into this nation and wanting to grab a hold of the American dream. I think that is such a noble task and a noble goal to have. Why? Because in my opinion, America is the greatest country on the face of the earth. And if you can figure out a way to get here and come here legally, oh, you will make something of yourself with hard work. Everybody else is doing it. The issue that I have with this, and the issue that I have with Christians who don't understand the argument, is they allow their compassion and their humanitarian desire to want to help. They are doing it at the expense of the safety and the security of American citizens. Everyone who knocks on your door is not here because they want to see you win and want to see you do well. Some people come to your door because they want to come in and steal your stuff. Some people want to come in because they want to do you harm. And then you may have someone that actually just knocks on the door because they really do want to borrow a cup of sugar and they going to give it back as soon as they get their check. There's levels to this, and there are category distinctions that must be made. So for the believer, if you are a citizen of heaven and a citizen of this country, stories like this should concern you, and you should be all on board for a closed border because it is wise and judicious for you to have such a position. It is illogical for you to try to champion this cause of, the migrants didn't even do nothing. Yes, an argument can be made that not everybody who is in this country illegally going to commit a heinous crime. An argument can be made for that. But since we don't know who these people are at large and they've not been vetted, the only thing you can do is you're going to have to deport all of them because they came here illegally, and then tell them we wanted you here, but the next time we find you over here, you got to go through the process and come the right way. I have plenty of friends who've come to this country the right way, and they have now established themselves as U.S. citizens. You don't just get to bust through the fence and then demand things, because we got to vet you. We got to vet you. So let me know what you guys think. Leave me a comment down in the description box below. Not the description box. Why do I always say that? Just leave me a comment down below. Let me know, what do you think of what Pam Bondi is saying here? What did you think of the mom who told the story about her daughter who is no longer here to defend herself? Who's going to defend the people who have lost their lives as a result of this horrible immigration problem? Leave me a comment down below. Until next time, you guys, grace and peace.